as many of you may know, in our Big Ideas 2022, which is at ark-invest.com, we have a price target in 2030 for Bitcoin of more than $1 million per Bitcoin. And yeah, see, even you can't believe it. I expected a big roaring, no, but and if you go in and you'll see how we build that case, we see institutional investors, all we expect over the next 8 years is that 2.5%, roughly 2.5% of assets, institutional assets, are allocated to Bitcoin.
The bulls are out in full force in Miami this week, and two of the biggest made their appearances at the conference. Wood and Saylor, who are famous for their optimism about the future of the cryptocurrency, are often credited with popularizing Bitcoin among traditional investment firms. Cathie Wood reiterated her bullish stance on Bitcoin at the Bitcoin 2022 conference in Miami this week as the ARK Invest founder renewed her call for the cryptocurrency to reach $1 million by 2030 in a presentation yesterday. Embedded in her forecast for Bitcoin is a view that the cryptocurrency is a haven from the current wave of global inflation. If inflation is an issue, Bitcoin is a great hedge against inflation. It is a hedge against counterparty risks, said Wood. Wood cited research that 70% of Bitcoin investors hold their position for the long term more than 6 months, amounting to approximately 13.5 million units out of 19 million crypto units. She also pointed out that Bitcoin, the leader among cryptocurrencies with a capitalization of $830 billion, has increased its liquidity tenfold. That's just a taste of what's to come, she said. However, the investor noted that Bitcoin's price is still volatile, attributing this to how new the cryptocurrency still is in the market. She argued that this is what has kept institutional adoption of cryptocurrency from growing faster. Before we listen to Cathie Wood, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are yet to do so.
I think we have someone at the SEC who is behind Bitcoin. At MIT, certainly that was the case. And the SEC has declared, as we all know, that Bitcoin is not a security. Now, Gary Gensler is talking pretty aggressively about everything else out there being a security. So I think this has elevated Bitcoin from a risk point of view, not to a lower risk. I shouldn't say elevated. It's actually lowered the risk that it's so clear Bitcoin is not a security, and everything else, at least in Chairman Gensler's eyes, is. Yes, Michael and I had a very spirited discussion yesterday afternoon about inflation as an issue, or is it ultimately going to go away? And we don't agree on everything, but one thing that I know and that we agree on is that if inflation is an issue, clearly Bitcoin is a great hedge against inflation. When we look at the deflationary impact of the various technologies around which we have centered our research, we think longer-term deflation and creative destruction associated with disruptive innovation, that's the bigger risk. And when you think about Bitcoin in those terms, you're thinking about a hedge against counterparty risk. So if we're going to have this debt deflationary bust that some still worry about out there, you've got Bitcoin as a hedge against that. So, it's, as an investor, whenever I hear win-win, I usually don't believe it, but as it is very interesting to watch the equity markets or the investors in equity markets treating Bitcoin and other crypto assets like they are treating the rest of tech, which is not very well of late, and to see the holding behavior in the Bitcoin community. I think, is it 70% of the Bitcoin outstanding, so roughly 13.5 million units of the 19 are in long-term holding hands, so more than 6 months. So the community gets it, and my fellow investors will get it with time, but in the meantime, it's going to be a very nice ride.
Today's video was sponsored by Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN is a virtual private network that helps you explore your favorite things on the internet with more freedom and security. Atlas reroutes all your internet traffic through an encrypted tunnel to shield your online activities, IP address, and all personal data from snoopers. Atlas is the tool you need to explore the internet without the fear of being hacked or spied on by the government. It can be a real pain when you cannot access your favorite TV show because of geographic restrictions due to licensing rights, or when a seemingly safe link leads to a gigantic personal data breach with many ugly consequences. Unfortunately, these are regular incidents that everyone risks every time they use the internet. Every time you click a link, you run the risk of exposing your email addresses, passwords, social security number, other personal data, or worse, your crypto wallet and other financial information to unscrupulous individuals on the internet. Atlas also gives you 100% anonymity, so you can explore websites, streaming platforms, and every content you love without geographic restrictions for fear of being hacked. You can access all sites and platforms, including those that are restricted in your region or country. Atlas helps you browse the internet without borders, no censorships, restrictions, or fear, just freedom and maximum security to explore all the things you love. In addition, you would be saving much more than you spend on subscriptions with Atlas VPN. With a quick change of your region with Atlas VPN, you will be able to get better deals on online subscriptions for streaming platforms and pay less for airline tickets, hotels, and more. Atlas is currently offering users the opportunity to enjoy all these benefits for $1.99 per month for 3 years. And one subscription is all you need to protect an unlimited number of devices from snoopers and restrictions. Click on the link in the description box below to enjoy all these and more benefits.
Cathie, what do you think about technology trends that are going to impact Bitcoin?
Well, I agree with you on the Lightning Network. I was fascinated. We were studying the announcement this morning, and there's so much friction. There has been so much friction involved in the process that taking away some of that friction, whether it's direct deposit, you can put 2% of your paycheck into Bitcoin, or the idea that I don't need to know whether I'm on the Lightning Network or on the base layer. I can transact. I can become a part of this community and not have the friction. I think they're pulling a lot of the difficulty, complexity out. I've watched the number of Lightning channels. They're up to 84 to 90,000. That's nearly a triple over the last year. That's probably because of El Salvador. With this announcement, I think the number of channels is going to explode. The liquidity, we think, is going to go from, and I should say we, in the audience, we have Yassine Elmandra and Frank Downing, my secret weapons in terms of Bitcoin and everything crypto, for example. But we think that the liquidity, which has gone up tenfold in dollars, fourfold in Bitcoin over the last year, that's just a taste of what's going to happen now that Cash App is going to make this, make it so much easier to use the Lightning Network. And I also say follow the developers. I think we're going to see an explosion of developers focused on the Lightning Network. And so now I think this has been the missing link in terms of the use case. Store of value, yes, it's always been there. Means of exchange and unit of account now have a much better opportunity for Bitcoin to dominate long term. I often, when we're trying to impress upon investors how important this movement is, what I usually say is, okay, listen to this and listen to every word, because every word is important. Bitcoin is the first global. That's really important, as Michael said. Private. Now, it's open source, but there's no government involvement. So private. So first, global, private, digital, rules-based monetary system in the history of the world. It is a very big idea.
I'm interested in your perspective as an investor. How do you see the capital markets and their attitude toward Bitcoin today versus a year or 2 years ago?
Well, it's improved, but it's a long way from, being fully accepted, embraced, and so forth. What we're seeing with Bitcoin and traditional institutional investors is the same thing ARK is seeing about all of our strategies, associated with all of our strategies. They're very volatile. That's scary for institutional investors. There's no index. They're not in my index. So, this would be very risky to get involved. This is a new asset class, and we don't even know what the regulations are. So we're seeing a lot of pushback still that way. But as many of you may know, in our Big Ideas 2022, which is at arc-invest.com, we have a price target in 2030 for Bitcoin of more than $1 million per Bitcoin. And yeah, see, even you can't believe it. I expected a big roaring no, but and if you go in and you'll see how we build that case, we see institutional investors, all we expect over the next 8 years is that 2.5%, roughly 2.5% of assets, institutional assets, are allocated to Bitcoin. So we don't need a lot. And if it's more than that, and that's how institutional investors work, they tiptoe in. In the 70s, it was real estate. In the 80s, it was emerging markets, 80s and 90s. And now I think it's going to be crypto starting with Bitcoin. And that's very important, starting with Bitcoin, because they understand what it is and what it's not. It's not a securities.
Nice.
Wood is sticking to her January prediction that Bitcoin will crack $1 million by 2030. It has a host of use cases, including as an insurance policy for people of means so that their wealth can't be confiscated, Wood said. The ARC CEO estimates that the U.S. view on Bitcoin and the sector in general has changed in favor of cryptocurrencies, so she is positive about the regulation plan in this country and its effects. Saylor, for his part, argued that given the signs of acceptance of Bitcoin in the U.S. government's statements, Bitcoin believers should be taking a victory lap. What do you think of Cathie Wood comment? Do you believe Bitcoin will be more than $1 million in 2030? Let us know your opinion in the comment. Thanks for watching, and please stay savvy till our next video.